What's up with being new at school, especially when you don't fit the mold? For kids who are quiet, shy, or a little chubby, it hits different. You laugh along, pretend it doesn't hurt, and hope tomorrow will be better. But some people don't stop. That afternoon, they took it too far, ropes around her waist, laughter echoing down the field. Phones out, hearts empty. And just when the cruelty peaked, the laughter cracked. The boys froze. Because Karma had just walked in wearing a black t-shirt, silent and steady. Jasonstatham didn't need to say a word. They could already feel the payback coming. Before we continue, I take this moment to thank you for being here. These stories aren't just about Jason or heroes, they're about real people, about what it means to stand up when it's easier to look away. If you believe the world still needs kindness in classrooms, in streets, in hearts, take a moment to subscribe. Because every story we tell is a reminder, doing the right thing still matters. The first day of school was supposed to be a fresh start, new faces, new books, new beginnings. But for Emma, it felt more like walking into a battlefield. She wasn't used to noise or crowds. Back home, her mornings had been filled with the sound of chickens, the wind moving through the wheat, and her mother calling her in for breakfast. Here, it was lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, laughter that always seemed to have someone's name at the end of it. Usually hers. She came from a small farm on the edge of town. Her family didn't have much, just a bit of land, a few animals, and an old pickup that coughed more than it drove. Her clothes were simple, her accent noticeable, her kindness mistaken for weakness. And teenagers, especially bored, insecure ones, could smell difference like blood in the water. The first week wasn't terrible. A few whispers, a few laughs when she raised her hand in class. But then it escalated. Someone tripped her in the hallway. Another accidentally spilled juice on her lunch tray. Then came the phones, always recording, always laughing. She tried to tell herself it would pass. It didn't. By the second week, she started eating lunch in the art room, pretending to work on projects so she wouldn't have to face the cafeteria. She never told anyone, not her teachers. Not her brother, who was back in town after years away, the brother she hadn't seen much since their parents died. Jason. He promised their mother he'd look after her. But since the military, Jason had become a quiet man. He didn't say much, didn't need to. He worked part-time at a garage nearby and spent his mornings jogging before the world woke up. He thought she was fine, strong, maybe even happy. She never gave him a reason to think otherwise. But she was breaking quietly, piece by piece. That Friday afternoon, the sun was burning over the asphalt when Emma's bus dropped her off. She decided to walk instead, take the shortcut behind the gym to avoid the crowd. Her backpack bounced lightly on her shoulders, her hair sticking to her neck. That's when she heard it. "Hey, farm girl, where you off to so fast?" Her heart sank. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was, Chloe and her crew. The kind of girls who smiled at teachers, but fed on fear when no one was watching. Emma kept walking, "I don't want trouble." But they followed, three of them, loud and confident. "Relax," Chloe said, laughing. "We just want to say hi." Her tone was honey over glass. Emma's steps quickened. She could see the fence ahead, the one separating the schoolyard from the open field. Just a few more steps. Then someone grabbed her backpack. She stumbled. Laughter exploded behind her. "What's the rush, country girl? Got cows to milk." Emma twisted to pull free, but another hand pushed her shoulder. Her knees hit the dirt. "Stop," she shouted. "Please just stop." Phones were already out, screens glowing in the afternoon light. The girls laughed harder, the sound bouncing off the fence. "Let's make it official," Chloe said, smirking. "Welcome to the city, farm girl." Before Emma could react, they yanked a piece of rope from one of their gym bags, the kind used for track hurdles, and looped it around her arms. She screamed, struggling, but the more she moved, the tighter it got. "Smile for the camera." One of them held her phone up, another poured soda over her hair. The cold sting ran down her back, and her eyes filled with tears she couldn't hold back anymore. Her voice cracked, desperate. "Please, please don't." For a moment the laughter softened. But cruelty has its own momentum. Once it starts, it doesn't stop easily. Chloe tilted her head. Aw is the little farm girl crying. Maybe call your cows to save you. Laughter again. The kind that makes the world sound far away. Emma's hands trembled, her breath coming in sharp bursts. She could taste the dirt on her lips, feel the rough metal of the fence digging into her arms. A few streets away, Jason was finishing up his shift. His hands were still stained with oil and engine grease when his phone buzzed. It wasn't a call, just a message from one of the teachers who'd known his family for years. Jason, something's happening near the school. You might want to check it out. He didn't hesitate. He dropped the wrench, grabbed his jacket and started running. Back at the school, Emma's breathing had gone shallow. Her vision blurred from the tears and the sting of soda in her eyes. The girls were still laughing, posing for photos beside her like it was a game. But they didn't notice the figure crossing the field. The sound of boots crunching gravel. Slow, steady. No shouting, no threats, just the kind of silence that felt heavier than noise. One of the bullies noticed first. Ugh, guys. Jason's shadow stretched across the dirt before his face came into view. His jaw was tight, his eyes darker than the storm building behind him. He didn't speak at first. He just looked from Emma to the rope to the phones. What are you doing? His voice was low, controlled. Chloe tried to laugh it off. It's just a joke. Relax, old man. Jason didn't blink. Untie her. Seriously, it's fine, another girl said. We were just. I said, he repeated, untie her. The rope fell quiet, so did the laughter. Something in his tone, calm, cold, absolute, made the air feel heavier. Emma's sobs broke through the silence. Jason moved forward, crouched beside her, and carefully loosened the rope. His hands were gentle, but his face stayed unreadable. When the last knot came undone, she collapsed against him, shaking. He steadied her. You're okay, I've got you. He turned his head slightly, eyes still on the girls. Apologize. No one moved. Now. The word cut through them like glass. One of them stammered, we're sorry. Jason nodded once. You will be. He lifted Emma into his arms, her tears soaking into his shirt. As he started walking toward the car, one of the girls whispered, he's crazy. Jason paused mid-step, glanced back, not angry, just disappointed. No, just someone who's seen what happens when people laugh instead of help. Then he walked away. Later that night, Emma sat in silence at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. Jason leaned against the counter, arms crossed. He hadn't spoken much since they got home. Finally, she whispered, I didn't want you to know. Jason's voice softened. Why? Because you already lost enough. Mom, Dad, the farm. I didn't want to be another problem. He crouched beside her, meeting her eyes. You're not a problem. You're the reason I get up every morning. Her tears returned, quiet, fragile ones this time. Jason exhaled slowly. Tomorrow I'll talk to the school. She shook her head. They'll just say I'm overreacting. He gave a faint smile. Then maybe they'll listen to me. He looked toward the window, the night stretching quiet and cold beyond it. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Because people like those girls didn't stop after one warning. And he wasn't about to let them try again. The next morning, the video had already spread, clips of the farm girl incident, shared between students, each version uglier than the last. Jason saw it by accident, overhearing two teens whispering outside the coffee shop. By noon, the whole town had seen it. That's when the real storm began. It started as whispers in classrooms. Did you see what they did? Then moved to phones, then to parents, and by lunch, to the entire town. The bullies thought it was fame. For a few hours, they laughed about the views, the comments, the reactions. But fame built on cruelty burns quick, and the world was watching. By sunset, the video had been reported by dozens of people. The school board was flooded with emails. And yet, none of it mattered to Jason. His world was just that small kitchen table, that cup of tea Emma hadn't finished, and the way her hands still trembled every time someone mentioned school. He didn't talk much, never did, but that night, he sat beside her quietly as she scrolled through the hateful comments. People she didn't even know had turned her pain into entertainment. Jason reached over, shut the screen, and said softly, You don't need to read that. You lived it once, that's enough. Emma nodded, but her eyes stayed wet. It's not just them, Jason. It's everyone. I walk into a room and they see that video first. Jason didn't respond right away. He just placed a hand on her shoulder. Give it time, he said. Then after a moment his voice lowered. Sometimes people need to see what they've done in a way they can't ignore. The next day, Jason walked into the school. The principal's office fell silent when he entered, not because they knew who he was, but because of the way he carried himself. Calm, controlled, like someone who didn't come to argue but to finish something that had already started. I'm here about my sister, he said. The principal nodded nervously. Yes, Mr. Statham, we've been made aware of the situation. It's terrible what happened, and rest assured we're taking it very seriously. Jason leaned forward, voice even. Are you? The principal blinked. Excuse me. Jason's eyes didn't waver. You have cameras in that field. Teachers walk by every afternoon. How did a group of kids tie a girl to a fence and no one noticed? The principal swallowed. We're conducting an internal review. Jason exhaled slowly, nodded once. Good, do that. Then he stood and before leaving added quietly, but if you really want to fix it, don't just punish them. Teach them. The principal looked confused. Teach them what? Jason paused at the door. What it feels like to be powerless. That weekend, the school hosted a community event, a volunteer day meant to rebuild trust after the bullying scandal. Most students came for extra credit. Jason came for something else. He arrived early, sleeves rolled up, helping set up tents and tables. Emma didn't want to go at first, but he convinced her gently. Let them see who you are, he said, not who they said you were. By midday, the field was full. Parents, students, teachers, all pretending the air wasn't heavy with tension. The bullies were there too, forced to volunteer as part of their disciplinary action. Chloe stood with her friends, eyes darting nervously whenever someone looked her way. Jason kept his distance, silent but aware. Then, as the sun climbed higher, the school announced an activity, building a small wooden fence for the community garden. Irony, it seemed, had a sense of humor. The students laughed awkwardly, hammering posts into the ground. But Jason's eyes stayed fixed on Chloe and her group. They worked apart from everyone else, tired, embarrassed, trying not to look at Emma, who quietly painted signs nearby. At one point, Chloe's hammer slipped, hitting her thumb. She hissed under her breath. Jason walked over, picked up the fallen hammer and handed it back. Careful, he said. Tools have a way of hurting the careless. She nodded quickly, unable to meet his gaze. Then he crouched beside her and started helping her align the next wooden post. You know, he said, voice calm but deep, people think pain teaches lessons. It doesn't, understanding does. Chloe frowned, glancing at him. What do you mean? He tightened a nail, looked up at her. You tied someone to a fence. You thought it was funny because you didn't feel what she felt, but imagine this. He tapped the rope coiled near her feet. You're tied there, camera in your face, no one helping. How long before the joke stops being funny? Her lip trembled, but she stayed silent. He stood, brushing the dust from his hands. If you want to fix what you did, don't say sorry to make yourself feel better. Say it when you mean it enough to never do it again. Then he walked away, leaving her with the rope and her reflection. That night, Chloe found herself replaying his words. For the first time, the laughter in her head didn't sound like fun, it sounded cruel. The faces on the video were friends. They were strangers doing something she could barely believe now. So the next morning, she showed up at the Statham house. Emma opened the door, startled. Chloe stood there with her phone in her hand, the same phone she'd filmed with. She held it out, trembling. I deleted it, she said. All of it, every copy I had. Emma didn't say anything. I know that doesn't fix what I did, Chloe continued, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry, really sorry. For a long moment, Emma just looked at her, unsure if she could believe it. But then she saw the tears, the way her voice cracked, the fear in her eyes. It wasn't fake. It was someone finally realizing the weight of what they'd done. Thank you, Emma said quietly. Chloe nodded, turned to leave, and froze. Jason was standing a few feet behind his sister, silent as ever. She turned pale, I didn't know you were. Jason raised a hand slightly. It's okay, I heard. Her throat tightened. I'm sorry, Mr. Statham, for everything. He nodded once. I know. Just make sure the next time you see someone standing alone, you're not one of the ones laughing. She nodded again, tears threatening to spill, and walked away. Weeks passed. The noise around the video faded, replaced by whispers of something else. The strange man who helped fix the school garden, who never raised his voice but somehow changed everything. Emma went back to class, still quiet but no longer invisible. When she walked down the hallway now, people moved aside, not out of fear but out of respect. And every time she passed the fence, she saw it had been transformed. Where the rope once burned her wrists, flowers now climbed the wood. A small sign read, "Be kind always." Jason had built it himself. One afternoon, as the school bell echoed across the field, Emma found Jason sitting by his truck, cleaning the grease off his hands. You did all that, she said softly. The garden, the sign, everything. He smiled faintly. Nah, just gave them a place to start over. She sat beside him, watching the sunset paint the sky gold. You know, she said, Mom used to tell me you were scary when you were younger. Jason laughed under his breath. She wasn't wrong. Not anymore, Emma said. You just make people think. He looked at her, pride flickering in his eyes. That's all I ever wanted. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that feels full, not empty. Then Emma whispered, Do you think they really learned something? Jason leaned back against the truck, gaze fixed on the fading light. Maybe not all of them, he said, but one will, and that's enough. Later that evening, Chloe returned to the field. The others had gone home, but she stood by the wooden fence, tracing her fingers over the painted sign. For the first time, she understood what those words meant. She glanced toward the road and saw Jason's truck in the distance, headlights dim, waiting for Emma. For a second she thought about going over saying thank you, but she didn't. She didn't need to. Some lessons don't need words. That night Jason sat on the porch, a cup of coffee in hand. Diesel, his old K9 partner, lay quietly by his boots. The crickets sang softly in the dark. He looked up at the stars and exhaled, a hint of peace in his chest he hadn't felt in years. The world wasn't perfect. It probably never would be. But for once, in this little corner of it, kindness had won. And that was enough.